So today we're going to make a Essix retainer. We've got models. We are going to be using a stone model, the Cocal Buff. It's a stronger stone and it is a little bit easier to work with when you're using the Essix doing the Essix retainers. So we have two sets here. We're just gonna make one of them. I'm gonna turn the machine on. We've got our vacuum form here, so we'll turn that, start heating. On this one over here, we're gonna do a little hole, and I'm gonna make a hole for the fact that I want to be able to have a little bit. Whoa. There. Get it cleared off. That little hole is going to allow the pallet to suck down nice and tight. So let's load up here. When you load up, there is a curve here, and it's very subtle, but as it goes, it will lift up and then it will go back down. And so you'll find it that happens the nicest and the easiest doing it that way. So up it comes. We put our model under here, and if you come from the top and just take a peek, you can see that I'm getting part of the hole inside there so that it will actually vacuum form down and it will lock it tight, and that's why we do that hole there. Okay, then you make sure on the front that you've got a hole as well. All right, so that it's going to be able to lock nice and tight to that whole piece. All right, so we'll just wait for the heat to come on, and we will vacuum form that down. While you're getting that ready, we're going to use also a wheel saw. All right, this is what we're going to use to trim the Essix with, and we'll hook that up to our lab wheel, and we will get that locked in. All right, so it's just about ready to go. So once this is hot, you spin that around and you watch. All right, so you can kind of peek in there and you'll see that the material start to ripple a little bit, then it will actually lift up and then it will go down. And when those little ripples have kind of leveled off, you want no sagging, but when those little ripples have leveled off, that's when you know it's time to vacuum form down. Yeah, can you see it starting to move now a little bit? It's just coming up and it kind of goes all the way across. Now it's starting to go down. And so once that has all leveled off and you can just see it starting to flow out to the sides, we're gonna just move the heat away and we're gonna vacuum form that down. All right, ready to go. So we'll spin that away, turn on the vacuum. Now you want to make sure that this is no longer tacky, all right? As soon as you've got it, you get it out of there and you get it into some cold water, and we just put it in the sink, throw it in the cold water, and it actually will do a set, and we want to make sure we've got a nice firm set around there. All right, so there it is. It's all vacuum formed down. The same you would do when you were doing the upper. When you set the upper down, you would set it down like that. All right, so you've got holes in the back, you've got holes in the front, and that would give you a solid lock on the lower retainer. All right, so now take some lab scissors, and all that you're going to do is you're going to just cut around the whole edge of this. All right, so that's garbage. And then just because it gets a little messy when you're dealing with water. Now, when you want to trim, you're going to want to stay above here. So you're going to want to kind of be trimming up into here. When you come to the Freedom, you just cut across there. We'll deal with that later when we're cutting through. In our office, we like to trim about 3/4 of the way across the heels. All right. And there's two ways you can trim. You can trim right down across the pallet, or I myself trim about here and then just do a nice curve on both sides. That takes a bit of practice. either or is fine. You just need to be able to get this off in one piece. So what we'll do is I'm going to throw some safety glasses on. This stuff tends to fly around a bit, so you want to make sure that you've got everything going. So I usually start at the back. There, I've got my start, so I'm going to be able to peel off at that point. And then, now you have to watch these wheels. They will grab, and so you have to be very careful that you've got a firm grip on the model and you've got a firm grip on the machine. And you just cut around. There you go. And you just work your way around. You try and keep the flow as even as you can because you don't want a bunch of rough edges. And now here I'm just going to cut across the top here. All right. So at this point you can either cut right at the back of the palette straight across, or like I said, I kind of go in kind of at the top of the roof of the mouth and just go in and angle your way back, and then just a nice curve. And the same again. And try and be as symmetric as you can with your curves, because the patient's tongue is going to feel that. All right, so there we've got it, and then we've got our cut there. We're just going to set that aside for a second, and this should be able to just peel off. Yeah. All right, so there's our first rough cut. Now, to get this off, you can use an elevator and just lift at the very distal, and that'll get you started. So you've got a bit of a go. I usually go into this area and then just kind of lift up a little bit. You don't want to tug too much, but there it is. All right, so we've got that part of it done. Now we're going to take some scissors and just start. I start at the back, and I usually just trim about 1/4 millimeter. I'm not going to trim much off at the heel, and then just come around to an area where you've got enough so that you've got some retention, and just work again. And try and keep your scissor movement very smooth, otherwise you have a whole bunch of little burrs and stuff and edges that you're not going to want to deal with. So there's that, and like I said, we're going to deal with that frenum yet as well, because that would really create a pinch. And so again, up, and then again, just follow the curve that you started when you cut that out. If you didn't and you went straight across, then you would put this curve in yourself, all right, with scissors. And I mean, that's just as easy to do. So it's whatever you would feel most comfortable doing. All right, so there's your first cut. Now with the frenum, you can go in with scissors and just cut a little snip there and make a little V. That works fine. I tend to like using the burr better. So just a utility lab burr. I turn it down a bit because you don't want a lot of pressure putting on, and so basically go right where the frenum is and cut yourself a little groove and smooth that area out. Now what it tends to, you want to create a bevel, so you just kind of roll your retainer back and forth until you're happy with the bevel that you've created and that it's smooth. All right, so and then just look again. You try and make the retainer as even on both sides as you can, because any changes, the patient will notice that in their mouth. And so you want to try and keep both sides the same, or as close to the same as you can get them. All right, so there, we've trimmed so that the frenum is basically, you can touch it even a bit more maybe. And again, that's one of those personal call things that you need to look at, and each case is going to be a little bit different when you trim. All right, so like I said, you can either use scissors and cut that little V in there, or you can use the burr and cut that in as well. Now, the last thing you're going to use is to smooth the edges. We use a 320 grit, so a very, very fine sandpaper, and you just run along and basically create a bevel. So you start on the inside, and as you're drawing back, you roll over. So and then feel with your hand, and you can tell if it's rough or not. Okay, so you want to stay, and so that feels almost like you're sliding on butter. So totally smooth, like silk. And on the inside, again, I tend to roll one way too, so I'm not creating burrs running back and forth. But either way, you just need to smooth that off so that it feels no roughness at all, right into the tongue. With the little divots and stuff at the back here, both ways. Go this way, flip it over, and go this way. And as you bevel over the edge, you should remove the little burr that was there. All right, so you just continue around. And this is where you run into trouble if you have not cut your material smoothly. You're going to find that you've got all kinds of edges that you're feeling. If you're having trouble with that, it's not smooth, take your burr and just run it across very gently, and that will take those ridges and stuff out of there. But again, just be careful because the burr is fairly non-forgiving. It'll make some ridges for you pretty quick, or cut where you don't want to be. All right, so that's it. Everything's nice and smooth. Your patient is ready for his new retainer.